Hey everyone. Okay, so before I get into the review of this episode, I do want to talk about something that's been kind of on my mind for a while, and I was initially planning to cover it in the last episode, episode 12, but I figured now is kind of a good time to tackle it more than ever, which is that obviously at this point, it's no surprise ACAT has completely screwed the pooch when it comes to the adaptation of the beginning after the end. That's basically been set in stone at this point. But in saying that, while I've been going through these episodes, reviewing them, it has sparked a question in my mind of who would I have put in charge of TBATE's adaptation? Who would I have wanted in order to adapt this series? And I think, and obviously, like everyone else, I'm sure everyone else, the obvious contenders have been on my mind, like Madhouse or Wit or any of the other major studios that have popped up that people have basically great respect or or reverence for. But for me, I think when I'm thinking about this series, and when I think about who would be a good who I would put who if I was in charge, who I would have like tasked to adapt this series, the one that came to mind is Ufotable. The series that's responsible for Demon Slayer, and I obviously Ufotable in itself is probably like an obvious choice for a lot of people too, but for me, when I think about the work that basically that Ufotable has done with Demon Slayer, it's kind of a match made in heaven. Like when are Ufotable themselves, while they might not always be great with Ufotable while having great animation, they also have a very unique artistic style in the way artistic art style in the way they handle things, and or at least they always put a certain amount of artistic quality in their projects as well. And if we got TBATE with especially the sort of a similar sort of art style or vibe to what Demon Slayer has, I think this could have been something really fucking amazing. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but the more I thought about Ufotable, the more I thought that's actually kind of a match made in heaven, and I would really love to see how that works out. So in saying so, yeah, for me, if I was to give my answer, if anyone asked me the question of who I would have wanted to adapt this series, there you go. For me, it is Ufotable. So yeah, like I don't know, like I don't know if Ufotable could have done it because they're busy working on the final arc movie of Demon Slayer. But if we had just like waited, if we could have just waited maybe a little bit longer, and Crunchyroll maybe even actually giving more thought into the idea of who would have adapted this, like maybe we could have had something. Again, it all depended, I think, on Crunchyroll and Turtle Me as to who would make the final decision. But like I think about Ufotable and I'm like, yeah, this could have worked so much better. But okay. Putting all that aside, let's get into the episode itself. Because with that being said, obviously a good chunk of this episode is the initiation battle between Arthur and Cynthia, and the aftermath of that when we cut to the Halcyon homestead, where you have the discussion about Arthur joining Zyrus Academy and just his desire to in order to go on an adventure and become an adventurer. And this is a weird change for me, because while I like how things play out more actively and dynamically by having the fight with Cynthia come first and then the discussion of Arthur's adventures in Osiris, there is something about this change that still feels a bit disconnected, and I think a lot of that is just from how the anime has delayed the introduction of Cynthia Goodsky this long in general. Like, I know I said this a lot while covering this anime, but there is a very specific rhythm and flow to how things are paced in the webcomic. So to see that kind of disrupted, I think has really thrown me off guard. Like, it's not a terrible change, but it has made me realize why Turtle Me had things play out in the order that he did, specifically with Cynthia Goodsky, whereas here it feels more obvious they're reorganizing and pacing things in such a way that it ends off on a cliffhanger before the Zyrus Academy arc starts. Which, yeah, if there ever is a core 2, it's it's debatable if I'm ever going to cover that, mind you. In saying that, I do like how Arthur acknowledged that for however much natural talent he has from his previous life, it's in facing Cynthia Goodsky that he realizes he's really only scratched the surface of what magic in this world is capable of, and just wants to learn more before even joining the Academy. Now, in saying that, there's one major plot beat the episode skipped over, and I assume it'll be one of those things they address in flashback or something, but it should be noted here, which is that when Arthur goes on his adventure with Jasmine and the Twin Horns, he uses a mask to hide his face to prevent himself from being recognized as the way it's explained in the webcomic. From Arthur's perspective, even though the royal family swept it under the rug, people still talk and information spreads regardless of how much he's trying to keep it, no matter how much they try to keep it from getting out to the public. So if people recognize him as that kid who opposed the royal family, he'd have to hold back just to keep from causing a public spectacle. And that was more or less the reason for him in order to don his alter ego note. But the thing is, the episode doesn't even address the mask at all, other than a brief moment of seeing it among Arthur's belongings, which, although I'm certain we will see him don the mask next episode, the fact that it's not the fact this episode doesn't address the reasons why he's going to wear the mask are just confusing to me. Like, I suppose the flashback is the obvious route the anime is going to go to address this, but the fact we keep going back to that well again and again in order to address just these little but important details is frankly getting a little bit annoying to me. Just adapt what's there, like, god damn it. Although, again, I will say I love how hilariously lucky Arthur can be when he basically goes to pick out a weapon. He tried to pass off the sword he actually wanted as a staff for practice, and luckily the person who sold the auction didn't think any wiser of its value. Like, they had no idea that it was this huge weapon, that could be constructed with that could be constructed with pure magic. Like, you gotta just love the pure luck that Arthur has with that kind of shit. Like, he has this great weapon that he's gonna use, but then he kind of, like, you know, but no one knew its value. And yeah, aside from that, once again, this episode really does kind of go more into just how much Arthur has changed. Like, he went from not caring about anyone in his life beforehand to genuinely caring about the people he considers family, whether that's parents and sister, the Helstias, even the Twin Horns. He has so many people in his life he wants to keep safe and protect. But in admitting that, he also inadvertently kind of admits himself the safety and security that this new life offers might be becoming a bit of a crutch, in a sense where, because just him saying he never wants to lose the safety and security this new life offers, yeah, that is a giant red flag that one day he may lose the security of the life he has now. So it's like, yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic with Arthur's with Arthur's new life and how he feels about it, but also acknowledging that also inadvertently acknowledging that one of these days it's not going to be that safety blanket of his family, of his new family life, is not going to be there anymore. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Blue Sky, Analyst Crunchyroll, Bishop Notification Bell, subscribe, and just shove around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime signing off. Later, everyone.